Good morning, President Levin, Provost Salovey, Dean Pollard, Chaplain Kugler, masters, deans, and honored guests, and welcome women and men of the class of 2014. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to Yale University and welcome to Yale College. We are all so excited to have you here. We've been thinking about you since April 1, when Dean Brenzel of Admissions told us your names. Then we met more of you during Bulldog Days, and we met more of you this week in pre-orientation programs, and masters and deans watched with joy, as did parents, as upperclassmen ran your boxes upstairs. But at last, 2014, you are here. Welcome inside the gates, onto the playing fields, into the classrooms and the residential colleges. Welcome to the spaces and places you will soon call home. And welcome to all the families and friends who've brought you to this day. You've come from Ghana and New Haven, from Canada and China, from Georgia and Georgia, from Berkeley, Butte, and Brooklyn. Thanks for having helped 1,344 of the world's smartest and most interesting young women and men find their way to today. We are going to have exceptional encounters with them over the next years, in the classrooms, dining halls, intramural fields, extracurricular activities. And let me add that we plan to have plenty of fun along the way. But 2014, back to you. You've just arrived, and surely you have noticed our motto, Lux et Veritas, light and truth, and it appears on everything in Latin and Hebrew. Thanks to the design of Woolsey Hall, we've got huge windows that let in plenty of light, and I hope air today too. So let's spend our time this morning talking about truth, a very difficult concept to grasp, and one you might think belongs in a philosophy class. But truth is a subject we take on and tackle every day in the honesty of self-presentation and of representation. When we discuss truth, we're often arguing about what we think is right and why. I'm an art historian of Mesoamerica, roughly ancient Mexico and Central America, and I've been giving some thought to the notion of truth of representation among the Aztecs and Maya. If we might ever have thought mindlessly that certain images and representations were true, certainly the current technology from Photoshop to Pixar quickly disabuses us of that notion. But the notion of truth of representation has always been a question in the Western tradition. Plato first set it up this way. The gods create a bed, the carpenter makes a bed, and at the third remove is the artist who paints the bed. The problem with the painter's effort, unlike that of the gods or the carpenter, says Plato, the painter's picture isn't real. Whatever it is, it's not the thing that it represents. Just to put it another way, if an artist makes a pumpkin out of stone or clay, it isn't a pumpkin you can make into a pie. And so the history of Western thought begins with this anxiety about the real and the invented, the tension between facture of the useful and production of the imaginary. My point here is not to review this claim, but if representation is about the engagement with nature, an engagement with things divinely made, as Plato would say, then there is much to say about things made in the ancient New World. When we look at an ancient something that represents something else, and we can see at our remove of hundreds or thousands of years, we know what that something is, then we know that the ancient artist has successfully mastered the replication of a form, of a thing, of an idea, of a word. And if this representation is a sort of truth, then it has to be a kind of fiction. You can't make a pie out of a stone pumpkin. So let's start with an example. You have in front of you an image I doubt you've seen before. Well, Maybe one or two of you have. I learned that there are 2 of you from New Orleans, a few more from Louisiana. This object is a prized work at the New Orleans Museum of Art. But go ahead, turn it back into the cylinder cup that it is. You can, and I have cut mine, and I bring Exhibit A. So it's about half life size, the one you have in your hand. And you'll see that there's one seated figure to a side, each one with a monkey body, a human body and a monkey face, but in human clothing. And each is madly writing in a book, bound by jaguar pelt and held in the left hand. The right hand is bound up and tied to hold some kind of a writing tool. Now look closely. These are supernatural scribes, the deified patrons of art, writing, music, and dance, of invention and creativity. Students of the ancient Maya know them to be the monkey scribes, non-identical twins. And there are more than a few of you here today who know something about being a twin, or more. Well, in Maya art, it is monkey scribes who teach novices to paint, to write words, and to inscribe numbers. They want us to be in awe of them, and so they have managed their own representations and made themselves quite horrifying. But why have ugly scribes, especially if they control the imagery? Why would the scribes not improve their headshots by making themselves more beautiful, the most beautiful and best of humans? Why instead should scribes be monkeys? Can monkeys draw? Can they do more than imitate? Is it just monkey see, monkey do? Can they reveal truth? After the Spanish invasion of Mexico in 1519, no group was more troubling to the Spanish than the scribes and priests of native traditions. For the Spanish, what Aztec, Maya, and others held to be true were in their eyes lies and deceptions of the devil, even as the invaders sought advice from the sons of these same spiritual leaders in order to try to interpret this brave new world. They subscribed to the view that the most vulnerable and dangerous individuals in any regime are the learned ones, the intellectuals. You might be reminded here of the flight from their country of the Iraqi professoriate, neither exclusively Sunni nor Shiite, yet all feared, if not hated, for their very learning, their ability to read lessons from the past and to solve problems based on research and experiment. But it's easy to bash learning from so many directions. Nothing grieves scholars and students in my field of study more than when the late Wisconsin Senator William Proxmire held up a new dictionary from the Smithsonian, one of the most important 20th century works of linguistic scholarship on the ancient Maya, and assigned it his Golden Fleece Award. Even the unpoliticized scribe can be made to seem political. Is it possible not to seem to be taking sides? Oh, so much better to pretend to be a monkey, to keep one's head down, to retreat to the idea that art and writing are simply imitation, accept Plato's damnation, and admit it's better to be a carpenter. Plumb what it is that Shakespeare means in Henry VI, Part 2, when a base and murderous character shouts, "First thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers." A lawyer, of course, was and is a scribe, the individual who sorted out truth, or at least a truth, in text. That our Maya scribes understood all the danger of learnedness, that all the study since childhood, the hunched posture earned in days of painting and writing, that art and writing, whether fiction or fact, could expose one to death and torture and exile, and that both imitation and innovation pose their dangers. All this the Maya scribe understood in seeing the monkey as the artist's patron, avoiding seeming to be the genesis of ideas, whether verbal or visual, while nevertheless championing innovation, and finding that innovation could be rewarded must have been one of the artist's most artful performances. These artists, then as now, must have wrestled with the dissonance between the act of making and its outcomes. Maya artists, like their counterparts around the world, all trained. The artist whose painted surface lies in your lap worked within a very carefully limited tradition. In the tropical rainforest where this was made, almost nothing survives. No rough drafts, no training manuals, no guide to the opening days. But fortunately, fired clay is one of the most durable materials that humans have ever invented. The finished works of the ancient Maya reveal constant practice and careful work, flights of genius and self-reflection on what it is that practice and genius can bring together. What is also clear is that the making requires exquisite craft. That is to say that training, repetition, practice, analysis of raw material, all these undergird the outcome. When you write your name on a paper or a painting or a drawing, what do you mean? Is it yours? Learning and writing have always been hard for Maya scribes and for Yale College students. The lifting of words from famous writers or from Wikipedia, from drafts posed online, is now so easy as it is to take ideas from others. But it's also never been easier to retrace your steps and track down a citation that you neglected to note in the first event. The New York Times has been printing articles this summer about the problems of plagiarism and academic honesty for the current generation of high school and college students. That's you. Your work will not exist if it does not draw from others and learn how to enter the conversation. A critical part of what we do in our academic work here at Yale is to make that clear. In this sense, all our labors are collaboration. We cannot paint the bed that Plato spoke of unless a carpenter has first made one. The most successful fiction of an artist has a backstory in craft. Whether you are writing the report of a lab experiment or an essay in developmental psych, you will retrace some familiar steps. No matter how far we think we see, it is only because we stand on the shoulders of others. Acknowledging those shoulders and that work, this is the coin of the realm in our university. If you sing, if you act, you develop a voice, but it will always be shaped by the composer or the author or by those who have performed those notes or spoken those lines before you did. As you write, as you learn, you will find your own voice, and it will be truly yours, but you will never find it alone. Others will be there, silently shaping that new truth. So let's take a look at this little Maya pot again. You see, I put it back together. Following his ancestors, his mentors, his teachers, the artist has developed a new way to draw a cursive soul of the monkey scribe's foot, and a fresh way of representing the flat hand that's underneath the book. Drawing quick cursive lines, he paints with clay slip little more than charcoal, suspended in clay slurry, for there was no glaze. And he and his shop seem to have worked with a particular set of potters, who built such vessels of coils of clay, for there was no wheel in the ancient New World. The technology of their work was so limited, yet the results so stunning. The ancient Maya knew how to take one material, clay, and turn it into something else, like assembling poetry out of words and syllables, or building a structure out of rock that has yet to be quarried. And oh, I should mention, what was the function of this little pot? This example doesn't happen to include a textual tag that might name function, painter, or patron, but others commonly do, and I'll just tell you there's one at the Yale Art Gallery that has exactly that kind of text. And these written tags, as well as archaeologically attested traces, tell us that this is a pot for frothy, zesty, and bitter chocolate drink, the party drink of preference for the ancient Maya. So I now lift this little pot of chocolate to you, class of 2014, and hope that its richness and spiciness will envelop you in your quest for truth at Yale. 2014.
Good morning. I am delighted to join with Dean Miller in welcoming you, the class of 2014, to Yale College. I want to welcome also the relatives and friends who have accompanied you here, and especially your parents. As a father of 4 college graduates, I know how proud your parents are of how proud you parents are of your children's achievement, how hopeful you are for their future, and how many concerns, both large and small, that you have at this moment. So let me try to reassure you. Your children are going to love it here. And you are going to enjoy your association with Yale too, whether you are a returning graduate or one of the vast majority of parents who never set foot in New Haven until your children started to think about where to go to college. You may take some comfort in learning that surveys have shown that Yale parents are the most satisfied in the Ivy League. So welcome to the Yale family. We're very pleased to have your children with us, and we will do our best to provide them with abundant opportunities to learn and to thrive in the 4 years ahead. And to you, class of 2014, I make the same pledge. For you, these next 4 years will be a time of opportunity unlike any other, Here you are surrounded by astonishing resources, fascinating fellow students from all over the world, a learned and caring faculty, intimate residential college communities, a magnificent library, 2 extraordinary art museums, an outstanding museum of natural history, superb athletic facilities, and student organizations covering every conceivable interest, the performing arts, politics, community service, among others. You will have complete freedom to explore, to learn about new subjects, to meet new people, to pursue new passions. I want to encourage you in every way that I can to make the most of this rare and unique opportunity. Let's start with your academic program. Most likely, you will be just overwhelmed by the more than 2,000 courses that are available to you. In fact, you will inevitably miss out on 98% of them. But let me urge you nonetheless to sample widely. Each of the scholarly disciplines provides a different perspective on the human experience. Each allows you a different window on the accumulated knowledge of nature and culture. And each, quite literally, allows you to see the world differently. If I could offer only one piece of advice about selecting courses, it would be this: stretch yourselves. Don't assume that you know in advance what fields interest you the most. Take some courses in fields that are entirely outside the range of your past experience. You will not only emerge as a more broadly educated person, but you will also stand a better chance of discovering an unsuspected passion that helps to shape the future course of your life. By studying philosophy, for example, you will learn to reason more rigorously and to discern more readily what constitutes a logically consistent argument and what does not. And you'll study texts that wrestle directly with the deepest questions of how one should live. Your professors of literature, music, and art history will teach you to read, listen, and see closely, and help you to develop a keener appreciation for the artistry that makes literature, music, and visual art sublime representations of human emotions, values, and ideas. Whether you major in these subjects or not, your appreciation of what is true and beautiful will be enriched forever. Your professors of history will teach you to appreciate the challenging art of reconstructing the past and to understand how meaning can be extracted from experience. This may help you gain perspective on your own experience. Years ago, when I taught introductory economics in Yale College, I always began by telling the students that the course would change their lives. Why? Because economics will open you to an entirely new and different way of understanding how the world works. Economics will not prescribe for you how society should be organized or the extent to which individual freedom should be subordinated to collective ends or how the fruits of human labor should be distributed. But understanding the logic of markets will give you a new way of thinking about these perpetually important questions. And in similar fashion, each of the other social sciences, psychology, political science, anthropology, sociology, and linguistics, will give you a different perspective on human experience in society. Now, some of you may already have a passion for science or mathematics, and you may have set your sights for a major in science, math, or engineering. And there is so much in these pursuits to excite the imagination that I hardly need to elaborate. In science, we're in the midst of discovering the causes of human disease, the mechanisms of evolution, and the origins of the universe. In engineering, we have unprecedented opportunities to develop new materials, new medical devices, and new sources of energy. One of the virtues of studying science and engineering at a place like Yale is that you can practice science and engineering while you study it. You can work in research laboratories alongside your professors on problems at the very frontier of knowledge. So with respect to science, I have two messages that are mirror images. First, if you are someone with an early or emerging passion for science, take the time to study other subjects as well. Even if you pursue science or engineering as a career, broadening your education in the other liberal arts will enrich your lives, both enrich your lives and improve your science. And second, if you are one of those who does not think yourself a science type, don't just fulfill the science requirement, give science a serious try. During the past decade, we've developed a number of problem-oriented science courses without prerequisites. They are meant to give you a rigorous exposure to science without the comprehensiveness of survey courses that are designed for those already committed to a major or a pre-medical curriculum. So try one or two of these courses early on, and you may be surprised by your newfound enthusiasm. And to complete this mini tour of the curriculum, we will not let you forget about writing, math, and foreign languages. Some attention to these skills is required, but there are many ways to satisfy the requirements. And again, I would urge you to stretch yourselves. Try something different, an expository or creative writing class, or statistics instead of more calculus, or a new language, even as you pursue further study of one you already know. Now, my suggestion that you stretch yourself is not limited to the classroom. It applies to both the friends and the extracurricular activities you choose as well. If the friends you make here are exclusively those who come from backgrounds just like your own and went to high schools just like your own, you will have forfeited half the value of a Yale education. You come from 50 states and from 58 countries, from a wide range of racial, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Each of your residential colleges reflects within itself that rich diversity. So seek out friends with different histories and different interests. You'll find that you learn the most from the people the least like you. No doubt you'll participate in one or more of the 300 student organizations on campus, as well as varsity, club, and intramural athletic teams. You may find your consuming passion, the passion that shapes your life after Yale, in one of these pursuits. I can think of scores of journalists, public servants, teachers, startup entrepreneurs, performers, and filmmakers whose career choices were shaped by their extracurricular activities here at Yale. And again, my advice is move beyond the familiar. Try at least one extracurricular activity that's brand new to you. And by all means, do not spend all your time with your varsity teammates or your fellow singing group members or the others who write for the Yale Daily News. Make the most of the extraordinary variety of people and opportunities that are available to you here. So far, my advice to you is focused entirely on how you might get the most out of your Yale education. You might be wondering, am I here just to exploit all of Yale's treasures for myself alone? Well, the answer is no. We have confidence, based on the evidence of history and knowledge of the culture of this place, that your journey toward self-discovery, your progress toward finding your passion, will yield more than self-gratification and personal advancement. We believe that because you are intelligent and reflective members of a community of scholars, that you will come to recognize that with the abundant opportunities for self-enrichment that Yale provides, there also come responsibilities. And what are these responsibilities? They begin with responsibility for the well-being of the institution that you are joining today. Let me remind you that even for those of you whose parents are paying the full tuition, room, and board charges, more than half the total cost of your Yale education is supported by gifts of those who came before you. More than half of you hold scholarships, and most of our buildings, athletic facilities, museum and library collections trace to gifts from graduates of Yale College. Your responsibilities also include good citizenship in its many varieties. At Yale's founding, this took the form of supporting the young New Haven colony and the Congregational Church. Today, while volunteer service to local community organizations, both secular and religious, remains a distinguishing characteristic of Yale graduates, our horizons have broadened. Some of you will undoubtedly carry on Yale's great tradition of producing national leaders. And for all of you who spend most of your adult lives in the United States, there is an emerging burden of citizenship that will be yours to bear. And that is the powerfully important burden of helping to raise the level of public discourse and making our democracy work. One has only to compare the rhetoric of today's leaders with the speeches of Abraham Lincoln, given 150 years ago, or with the transcripts of the Kennedy-Nixon debates of 50 years ago, to see how oversimplified ideology and appeal to narrow interest groups have triumphed over intelligence and moderation in public discussion. By insisting, as citizens, on serious discussion instead of slogans that mask narrow partisan interests, you can help make our democracy more effective. Today, because the world is so highly interconnected and interdependent, you will have the added responsibility of acting as global citizens. Your generation, more than any that has gone before, will need deep knowledge of and intimate engagement with cultures and societies very different from your own. Those of you who come from abroad will, of course, experience immersion in another culture right here in New Haven. The rest of you may do so by taking advantage of one or more of our many programs of work or study abroad. Such an experience will stretch you in just the way I'm recommending more generally. It will force you to see yourself from a different perspective and to see others free from preconceptions. Since so many of the issues confronting us, from poverty and disease to the proliferation of nuclear weapons, require cooperative international solutions, a cross-cultural perspective is invaluable. Even before you travel overseas, you might start by preparing yourselves for global citizenship, by sampling some of the courses in international studies offered by our recently established Jackson Institute, such as the new multidisciplinary Gateway course on global affairs. Now, in addition to these burdens of local, national, and international citizenship that I've mentioned, your generation will need to rise as well to the challenge of planetary stewardship. Without a radical reduction in emissions of greenhouse gases during your lifetimes, much of humanity will suffer dislocation and famine on an unprecedented scale. We have both the current means to slow down the accumulation of atmospheric carbon and the imagination to develop the technologies needed to prevent catastrophe. We seem to lack only the conviction and collective will. You, of course, will need to scrutinize the evidence for yourselves with all the critical intelligence that you can muster. But if you do, I'm confident that you will assume this last responsibility as well. And you'll have the opportunity to practice planetary stewardship right here at Yale as we try to model what it means to become a sustainable campus. Women and men of the class of 2014, we take the greatest pleasure in welcoming you here to Yale College, and we delight in the anticipation of the opportunities that you will seize and the responsibilities that you will come to shoulder as citizens of your communities, the nation, the world, and the planet. Welcome to Yale. Thank you.